Hello and welcome back. Alright, so previously we created a basic web server using NodeJS and JavaScript. So what we're going to do now is create an external module, import that in, and have it do something for us. So in this case, we're going to create a module that's going to just do some basic addition. And so we're going to use a couple of parameters, we're going to pass them to them, it's going to add for us. So first we had created this basic script that returned hello world whenever the user queried the endpoint, which is localhost 8081. Alright, so what we're going to do is actually create a script, and we're going to export this function, and this is going to be imported later into our index.js file, and we're going to call the function addition. We're going to pass it two parameters, a and b. We're going to take those two parameters, add them together, and then return the sum. So a pretty basic application here. So we'll create our return statement there and exit out of here. Then we've got to go ahead and import it into our index file. So we'll open up our index.js file, and we're going to have to require, just like we did with that HTTP module, to run our web server. So we'll do maths equals require /maths.js. Awesome. Okay, and now we want to be able to actually see it work and implement the method here. So we're going to go ahead and change the return. So instead of returning hello world, we're going to return the sum, and we're going to print that out to the screen for the user, just as the return would be from the HTTP server. So we're going to say maths.addition, we're going to pass it 2 and 2, we should get 4 in response, and we're going to close out of this one, we'll run our server, and then we'll go ahead and curl that endpoint and just make sure that we get the response that we expected. Okay, server is running at localhost 8081, and so we'll go ahead and curl that endpoint, and very good, sum is 4, awesome. Alright, so we may want to make these parameters dynamic, right? So we can pass them in with the URL. So how do we do that? So we're going to go ahead and actually import another library here, and this is going to be URL. And this is going to help us to parse the URL out and get the parameters from it. So what we're going to do is actually pass to the endpoint a set of parameters, A and B, and we're going to give those values, and that's what we're going to add together. So we're going to go ahead and create a object, and we're going to parse that URL out, and it's going to create essentially a dictionary object that contains the name value pairs sent to us in our parameters. Right, so we'll go ahead and URL parse, request URL, and query. So we're going to take that query string and parse it into an object. And so for our addition function, we're going to go ahead and pass objects of A, objects of B, because we know that those are going to be the elements, the keys that we're going to be using for our object in our parameter string. Alright, great. Double check that we got everything right there, and we will save off our method. Okay, and if we run this server, now we should be able to pass that using curl, send it a couple of values, and it should work for us. So we'll go ahead and create our query string here. So question mark, we'll set A equals to, I don't know, 5. And when we add the ampersand here, just because of the way it's going to parse in bash, we're going to put a single quote around it. Put our value of B equals 10, and we got a sum of 5, 10. Well, that's not right. It looks like it's concatenating instead of adding them as integers. So we're going to go ahead and edit our maths function, and we're going to add a little parse int method, and that's going to take those strings that it's pulling from the query string and turn them into integers so that we can add those together properly. Alright, save that off. We'll run our server again. Run that curl command again. Fabulous. Alright, so now we have our 15 that we anticipated. But let's say we wanted to add, I don't know, another parameter, or say, any number of parameters to it. So now we can add another one. We'll call it C, and we're going to give it a value of 4. Alright, but obviously it's not going to work because we're only passing A and B into our maths function. We're going to change this a little bit, and what we're going to do is add to our index file, instead of passing the individual parameters from the object, we're going to pass the whole object. And that's going to require us to go in and rewrite our addition function a little bit and return and parse the object rather than the individual parameters. So instead of taking A and B as input, we're going to take the object as input. But then we've got to do a little more magic here, right? So what we'll do is we'll set a sum value here, all right, and this is going to be the variable that we're going to return. And we'll create a nice and easy loop, and then what that's going to do is iterate over the object and add those values together and then return that sum. So we're going to set a variable of k here. That's going to represent one of the keys of the object. So object keys and object. So this is a function that's going to return an array of the object keys. We're going to iterate over that array. We're going to grab the values, so object sub k of each value, and we're going to add those into our sum, and that total is going to be returned to us on the other side. So go ahead and sum equals sum plus object sub k. And we'll close out our loop. And I'm going to delete this one out because that's not going to work for us anymore. We're going to go ahead and return sum. Awesome. All right. So we've got to add another parenthesis there. Great. We should be good to go. So we'll go ahead and run our method again. Start up our server. Curl our endpoint. And oh, look what we forgot. We forgot to add the parse int back in there. So we're going to go ahead and edit that math function again. And we'll go ahead and parse in on that object sub k just to make sure that we're getting an integer, not a string. Awesome. Let's try our server again and see if we get the expected result. And very good, we got 19. So that is importing another file and using an addition function, and we've built it out a little bit so it's a little more versatile for us. So well, thank you very much for watching, and I want you to check back regularly for new content.